Hello everyone and welcome back to Towergate. It is day 130, July the 12th, 2017, Wednesday. Okay, well I'm slightly less angry tonight than I was last night. When I did last night's video, I was not very happy, as you could probably tell. I'm still not very happy because the thing that's irking me continues to happen. And just before doing this video, I watched about a 5-minute video clip with Trey Gowdy and Martha McCollum on Fox News. They're supposed to be the good guys. They're supposed to be the guys that are on the right side of the issues. And what they talked about was how troubled Martha McCollum asked Trey Gowdy how troubled he is by this situation with Donald Trump Jr. having this meeting with the Russian lawyer, despite the fact that we know that it's a setup. But we'll just move beyond that and get to what Trey Gowdy said. Oh, Trey Gowdy, let's see. He's very concerned about the meeting with the president's son and someone from a foreign government. It's very troubling. Well, Mr. Gowdy, you a-hole, had you read the email chain that Don Jr. released today, you would see that it was clearly a setup. If you would look at the individuals involved and look at who they're connected to, you would clearly see that it is a setup. Ms. McCollum, whose side are you on? It would be nice if you would have asked Mr. Gowdy whether or not he was troubled by Hillary Clinton and the Democratic National Committee working with the Ukrainian government and intelligence services and journalists in the Ukraine to dig up dirt on Trump, which they did, or attempted to, and they actually did transfer information. In the case of the meeting with Donald Trump Jr. and this female Russian lawyer, there was absolutely no information transferred because once they got together, they realized that they both had arrived at the wrong meeting. And I'll go into a little bit more detail later on that point. But to you, Mr. Gowdy, you flamin' a-hole, does it bother you, Mr. Gowdy? Are you concerned, Mr. Gowdy, that Hillary Clinton and the Democratic National Committee were meeting with the Ukrainian government as well as the Ukrainian intelligence agencies and journalists in Ukraine to dig up dirt on the president? Are you troubled by that, Mr. Gowdy? Are you concerned with that, Mr. Gowdy? The British PR guru Bob Goldstone is now admitting that he is the man that facilitated the meeting between Trump Jr. and the Russian lawyer that promised dirt on Hillary Rodham Clinton. Apparently this man, Mr. Goldstone, very well known in the UK, he's a big PR guy, does PR for like entertainers, movie people, musicians, entertainers, people like that. So he's a media guy. Do you think there's any chance that Mr. Goldstone knows Christopher Steele? Do you think that Mr. Goldstone may know the Clintons? Do you think that Mr. Goldstone, who else might he know? That's a very good thing that you might want to look into, Mr. Gowdy. Maybe find out who Mr. Goldstein hangs out with to find out what may have prompted him. Now we know that Mr. Goldstone, as far as he was in a PR capacity for the Miss Universe contest that of course Trump owns, and he was doing his thing there at the Miss Universe contest, and that is how he came into knowing, or at least ways meeting Donald Trump Jr. and I believe even Trump himself, and that's how he got that contact. And so that's where the contact originated from. But we also are learning today that this Russian lawyer, and she's clean, I mean there's nothing going on with her, she doesn't have any relations with the Russian government. I don't even think she's a big friend of Putin's or anything like that. I don't think she even knows Putin or anyone in the government. They claim that they don't know her from Adam. She's just another Russian lawyer. There's many of them. But it does appear that she has worked with Fusion GPS in the past. In fact, Fusion GPS was a client of hers, and she obviously is a lawyer who spends a good deal of time in New York, here in the United States, She represents a very powerful client and other clients in Russia, and mostly what she deals with is political issues and laws and things like that that cause problems with adoption between Russians and Americans. She's also in the case that she was working on where she one of the cases where she brought in Fusion GPS that had to do with the fact that at some point Obama had put some restrictions, travel restrictions on Russian businessmen and people connected to Putin, certain bankers and people like that, as a way to poke a finger in Putin's eye. And she was representing a couple of these high-level wealthy individuals in Russia who were thinking, hey, why am I being singled out just because I'm a Russian and I've met Putin and I know him or whatever? I've done nothing. Why can't I travel to the U.S.? Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? So she was representing people in these interests. So she's obviously a international lawyer that deals with these types of issues. And she sounds perfectly clean to me. It sounds to me like she was basically used just as Donald Trump Jr. was used. And of course we learned more about that today when he released the entire email chain, which I'll go through in just a moment. So it appears that our friend, the PR guru, Bob Goldstone, may have been playing a little bit of a dirty card. It's hard to say at this point. I'm sure within the next couple of days or weeks we'll learn more about Mr. Goldstone and who he's connected to. Something tells me he's connected to a lot more than what we know at this point, and I think that he is the guy at this point that made all this happen, and not this female attorney. She seems to have been as much in the dark about things as Donald Trump Jr. was. Next up, Hannity. Last night, Hannity is, I'm almost starting to like him. He did a segment last night that was very, very well done, where basically he talks about Hillary Clinton set up a private, off-the-record meeting with a Chinese ambassador. And of course, Hannity has posted the email, which I read, on his Twitter page. And sure enough, if you read the email, it says right there that this Chinese ambassador was wanting a private, off-the-record meeting with Hillary Clinton and someone from her State Department and a couple other people. They wanted to have dinner at John Podesta's house. Probably we're going to have pizza, would be my guess. Maybe they were going to have that pizza delivered, maybe with some other entrees that we probably won't discuss here in this video, because I'm not really sure what the Chinese ambassador is into. But we know what the Podestas and the Clintons are into. I'm sure they cooked up some spirits and had some good conversation. But if we're talking about collusion, then Hannity wants to know about this Hillary Clinton setting up the private meeting off the record. And now this was the Chinese ambassador that actually requested this. If you read the email, you'll see that this request was made by the Chinese ambassador and it was granted. So a very good job by Hannity pointing out some more collusion. We also have a very good story today on the Gateway Pundit. Mr. Jim Hoff, once again, fantastic journalist, doing a great job. And on Gateway Pundit today, they posted a picture on their website of this female Russian lawyer, Natalia Valenskaya, sitting next to Obama's ambassador to Russia. His name is Michael McFaul. And this was during a Foreign Affairs Committee hearing. So obviously this Russian female lawyer is no stranger to Washington. She's no stranger to politicians. She's no stranger to high-level people in the government, and not just Trump, but this is Obama's ambassador to Russia. She is sitting right next to him. You can see it in the picture. And apparently this woman has a lot of contacts in Washington with both Republicans and Democrats, with people in the bureaucracy, elected officials, media people. So this woman is obviously gets around, if you know what I mean. So it's a very good picture. This female Russian lawyer sitting next to Obama's ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul. Also recently discovered over 40 pages of heavily redacted documents from the FBI criminal probe in the Hillary Clinton email investigation. and it shows how badly the DOJ and the FBI handled the probe. And in fact, included in some of this unredacted information, you can see where the FBI had requested those devices that Hillary Clinton had used. And we know that, of course, she said that she continued to use her BlackBerry, even though she was told not to, which was connected to her unprotected server back in her home in Chappaqua, New York, probably being hacked tens of thousands of times a day, as we know that the Pentagon is hacked up to 100,000 times per day. How many times a day do you think that they were trying to attack the most high-level diplomat in the government? That would be Hillary Clinton at the time as Secretary of State. That is the most high-level diplomat we have. Her private server, unsecured, sitting there at her house, wide open. I'm sure that anyone who wanted to get into Hillary Clinton's stuff had no problem doing that. All they had to do was very easily steal her password. It's very easily done. They're in the computer. Of course, they could have sent Anthony Weiner a photo of a 13-year-old girl or something. He would have clicked on it. That could have got him into the system, because we know that a lot of those emails were given to Huma Abedin, who then sent them home to Anthony Weiner so that he could print them, because Hillary Clinton liked her docs printed. And whenever he wasn't available, she had her housekeeper do it. So yes, her housekeeper printing classified documents, Anthony Weiner printing classified documents, Huma Abedin and Hillary Clinton sending classified information all over the damn world, but yet we're worried about Russia collusion. So anyhow, what's funny about this in this email, it's not really funny, but it just shows you that how corrupted this investigation was. That of the 13 devices that were requested, only 3 were sent. And when they sent them without the SIM cards. Now, any other FBI investigator, had they requested that 13 devices, they would expect to get 13 devices. If they received 3, they would probably be pretty upset. But apparently, Mr. Comey was not upset. Didn't bother him at all. In fact, when he looked at the 3 devices that he did get and realized that the SIM cards had been removed, that's where you'd find the information, he didn't seem to have a problem with that either. No problem. We want 13 phones. We got 3. We needed to go and look at the data. Oh, they took out the SIM card, so we can't actually look at any data, but that's okay. This is one hell of an investigation we're running here. So there you go. More proof of collusion, more proof that the investigation into Hillary Clinton's email server was a sham from beginning to end. It was meant to fail from the very beginning. They were never going to file any criminal charges against Hillary Clinton, despite the fact that she transferred tens of thousands of classified documents onto an unsecured server, spread that information around the damn world, and including to Anthony Weiner. She had her housekeeper printing off classified information. She had Anthony Weiner printing off classified information. She's walking around communicating with her BlackBerry in places where she's told not to because it's insecure. She's communicating with her BlackBerry in hotels where they know that the hotels are bugged to death. No problem. Absolutely nothing to look at here, folks. Hillary Clinton, clean as the wind-driven snow. But I'll bet that Trey Gowdy is going to be all over that. Yes, sirree, Bob. Trey Gowdy will be all over that. That Pitbull, he'll be all over that. Lindsey Graham, he's doing an interview on MSNBC. And old Candy Pants is being asked about the Trump Jr. meeting. And of course he says, oh yes, yeah, that is troubling about this meeting. And yes, we're going to have Trump Jr. come in and discuss exactly what happened there, despite the fact that we already know what the hell happened, which is nothing. Nothing happened. Except for the fact that he was set up. We'll go through that in a little bit. Bear with me. Back to this story here. So Lindsey Graham is getting his digs in on Trump Jr. and talking about this thing. And then he decided to be fair and say, but there's also some other involvement between the Hillary Clinton campaign and foreign diplomat. And about that time, they cut the feed. Yes, they cut the feed when Lindsey Graham decides to talk about Hillary Clinton's meetings with foreign diplomats. They cut the feed. That's MSNBC for you. Yes, indeed. Cut Lindsey's feed when he's about to make some sense after not making any sense. Then he starts to make sense. You cut his feed. That's MSNBC. That's why their ratings are also almost as low as CNN. And they're headed in the same direction. And I guess Psycho Joe has decided he doesn't want to be a Republican anymore. Well, let me tell you what, Joe. You've never been a freaking Republican. I'm not a Republican either, by the way. Wouldn't have anything to do with him. But Psycho Joe, he wouldn't mind. Psycho Joe thinks he could be a great president. Mika thinks he could be a great president. The man's a dope. And why didn't Mr... We need to actually delve into a little deeper into Mr. Scarborough. Because old Psycho Joe has got a lot of issues. And in fact, one reason why Psycho Joe, who back in the 90s was a Republican member of Congress from Florida, chose not to run for re-election because of a little issue with an intern who turned up dead in somebody's office. You want to know whose? We'll get back to that. Maybe we'll do a little bit of a investigation, talk a little bit about Psycho Joe and why Psycho Joe's no longer in the Congress. There's something about having dead bodies of interns floating around that does damage to your political career. And that's what happened to Joe. We don't know what Joe's relationship was with that intern, but we can probably guess. Hey, here's some good news. Homeland Security has approved $1.6 billion for Trump's border wall. See, we do have some good news. So Donald Trump Jr. releases the entire email chain from the time he was first contacted to when the meeting actually happened. It is obvious that this was a setup, okay? Because what we have happening is that Donald Trump Jr. receives an email from this man, this PR guy, this British PR guy, Mr. Goldman, or Goldstone. He receives this email from Mr. Goldstone, who says, yeah, I think I've got some dirt on Hillary Clinton that you might be interested in, and so I can hook you up with a meeting with someone who can give you that information. Trump Jr. says, sure, I'd be more than happy to have a meeting with this person, and she can tell me what's going on, or that person can tell me what they know. At that time, he's not told who the person is he's going to be meeting. At the same time, this individual contacts this lawyer who's connected to GPS, and I believe that we'll find that Mr. Goldstone also has connections probably to Christopher Steele or somebody in the deep state. And in fact, we can assume he does. That's the crowd he runs with. But anyway, he contacts this female lawyer. Now, she's into serious issues, and she is going to be in New York and Washington representing a Russian client in some of these issues that we talked about earlier. Had nothing whatsoever to do with having information on Hillary or anything at all. She's not even into that sort of thing. She's an actual lawyer that has clients that she represents in court or whatever, and she's really doesn't appear to be very political at all. And we've heard from her, and she corroborates the Don Jr.'s story. So anyhow, she's told, hey, let me hook you up in a meeting with possibly the future president's son, and maybe he can help you out with those issues that you're trying to get squared away for your client. So Don Jr. shows up at this meeting not knowing exactly who it is he's going to be meeting with, and he's with Kushner and he's with Manafort, and they're expecting to get information, damaging information on Hillary Clinton. Now, this female lawyer, she shows up to meet Don Jr. thinking that they're going to have a conversation about these issues that she's dealing with, representing her clients. One is the issue of being able to adopt, Russian kids or American kids back and forth. The other issue has to do with people, two of her clients who'd been restricted from traveling to the U.S., and had some assets frozen because of their relationship with Putin. So this is what she wants to talk about. Now, as Don Jr. and as this female lawyer both admit, they get together. It only takes them about 15 or 20 minutes of talk before they both kind of look at each other and go, I thought we were going to talk about this. And, and she's like, well, I don't really know anything about scandals or Hillary Clinton or anything like that. That's not why I was here. I was here to talk about the issues I'm, doing for my clients. I'm here to talk about this and this and this. Don Jr.'s like, well, I don't really know anything about that. And I don't think my dad's actually knows anything about that. That sounds like more something for the Congress or something. I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe he could look into it, but at this point, I mean, I'm kind of confused about exactly, why I'm here. And she looks at him and says, okay, well, you can't really help me with these issues, or don't really have any interest in anything I'm telling you at this point, or whatever. It doesn't sound like, you can really help me. So after about 15 or 20 minutes, they realized that they were there for completely different reasons, and that there was really nothing either of them could do for the other. That was the whole point of the exercise, Mr. Gowdy. That's the whole point of the exercise, Miss McCallum. That's the whole point of the exercise, Mr. Mueller. Had nothing to do with them resolving either of those two issues or any interest in those issues. The only thing that was of interest was the optic. Was to be able to say that Don Jr. met with this Russian lawyer to feed into the narrative. That was the only point of it. It didn't matter what happened. All that mattered was that they had a storyline, a narrative. Trump Jr. meets with Russian lawyer. That's what it was all about. Didn't matter what happened in the meeting. Both of them were set up. This female Russian lawyer was set up. Don Trump Jr. was set up. It was all done for optics, for a storyline, for a leaked conversation, to play into the narrative, to do more damage. That's what it was all about. Mr. Gowdy, Mr. Pitbull, you dumbass. How about this, Mr. Gowdy, since we've already talked about this? I guess you know that Hillary Rodham Clinton's team met with the Ukrainian officials to dig up dirt on Trump. And of course, the differences between the meeting that Trump Jr. had with this Russian lawyer and the actual meetings that took place, in-depth meetings, multiple meetings that took place between Ukrainian government officials, as well as Ukrainian intelligence people, as well as Ukrainian bureaucrats, politicians, and journalists, was a strong effort to dig up as much dirt as possible on Donald Trump. Information was procured by the Ukrainian government and intelligence agencies and media. That information was sent to the Hillary Clinton campaign and to the Democratic National Committee. So now you don't just have the appearance of collusion, you actually had documents being transferred. You actually had an effort by a foreign government, Mr. Gowdy. What did you say, Mr. Gowdy? Let me go back and read that again, Mr. Gowdy. Yes, you are concerned about the meetings with the Trump team and a foreign government. Well, does it bother you, Mr. Gowdy, about the Hillary Rodham Clinton team and a foreign government? Does that concern you, Mr. Gowdy? My guess is it doesn't, you moron. But, as we've learned, Mr. Mueller has decided that he's going to look into that Don Jr. meeting with the Russian lawyer. That's nice. That's nice. Mr. Mueller is going to look into... Well, Mr. Mueller, there's not much to look into because Don Jr. came out and released the entire email chain. He has come out and stated exactly what happened. And the Russian lawyer has as well. And their stories are perfectly collaborate with one another. They're exactly the same story. We got together and realized after about 15 or 20 minutes, we were both there for different reasons. We both were obviously misled. Somebody put us together for this meeting for some reason, we're not really sure. But it certainly wasn't for the reasons either of us thought. That's what you're going to learn, Mr. Mueller. But Mr. Mueller, are you going to be looking into Hillary Rodham Clinton, her campaign, and a Democratic National Committee meeting with Ukrainian government officials, procuring information that was in fact sent to the DNC and to Hillary Clinton, and which eventually led to Paul Manafort having to resign? So action was taken, and consequences did come in the election as a result of this collusion. Are you going to be looking into that, Mr. Mueller? Mr. Mueller, are you going to be looking into your good friend James Comey sending a classified email on government systems, on government time, and a government vehicle to his friend for the very purpose of getting a special prosecutor, that being you, Mr. Mueller, appointed to look into Trump? Are you going to look into that, Mr. Mueller? Mr. Mueller, are you going to look into the testimony of James Comey, where he said that Loretta Lynch told him to change the nature of the investigation to a matter instead of an investigation? Mr. Mueller, are you going to look into that email to find out whether or not that is a legitimate email, which talks about apparently the email between Miss Renteria and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, or Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and this other Mr. Magoo? Are you going to look into that to see if it's a legitimate email? And if it is, are you going to look into whether or not, Mr. Mueller, that the what is stated in that email, that Loretta Lynch is going to back off or not delve too deeply into the investigation of Hillary Clinton? Are you going to look into that, Mr. Mueller? How about those DNC servers, Mr. Mueller? They're sitting right there. Wouldn't you like to take a peek at those, Mr. Mueller? Does that raise your curiosity any at all, Mr. Mueller? Can we expect that you'll be looking into that? Can we expect, Mr. Mueller, that you may be looking into the unmasking of Trump and his associates? You know, Mr. Mueller, wouldn't be too difficult to find. In fact, I'm sure you're very familiar with the 47 hard drives that may be sitting in James Comey's old office, along with apparently what is 6 million printed pages showing thousands and thousands of people whose names were people who were surveilled, people who were unmasked, including Trump, many people around him, private individuals, public individuals, judges, politicians, baseball players, basketball players, actors, actresses, porn stars, you name it. The government was spying on all those people. And a lot of this went on, Mr. Mueller, under your tutelage. That's right, Mr. Mueller. While you were head of the FBI, a lot of this stuff was being done, Mr. Mueller. Are you going to look into Mr. Montgomery's 47 hard drives? The case is coming up here soon in Washington, D.C. Are you going to look into that, Mr. Mueller? Are you going to look into the most recent post from a computer tech proving that the DNC leak had to come as a result of an inside job and not as a result of hacking, based on the data transfer speed? 23 megabytes, sir. Doesn't work, Mr. Mueller. I'm sure you know that, Mr. Mueller. I'm sure your IT techs know that, Mr. Mueller. 23 megabytes through an internet connection can't happen. I'm sure you realize it was all done from the Eastern Time Zone. I'm sure you could probably realize very easily, Mr. Mueller, if you looked at the server. Or you don't even need the freaking server, Mr. Mueller. Do what this IT tech did. Go back and look at the original file. Go look at the transfer file. That's all you need to see. You'll find that on the FTP server, sir. You don't even need the damn email server. Go find the FTP, the File Transfer Protocol server. Take a look at that, Mr. Mueller. Can we expect that you'll look at any of these things, Mr. Mueller? How many of you out there believe that Mr. Mueller is going to look into any of these things? Anybody? I don't see any hands being raised out there. Clearly, the people who subscribe to my YouTube channel and watch my videos are a hell of a lot smarter than Mr. Mueller and apparently Mr. Comey and apparently Mr. Gowdy, the Pitbull. That's right. Christopher Stevens, in his deposition, is now stating that the information that he dug up on, that he was paid to dig up on Trump, was never supposed to be made public. Now, this is quite humorous, Mr. Stevens. You're a liar. Because we know, Mr. Stevens, all you have to do, Mr. Stevens, is go back and watch my 2 videos on the dossier, Mr. Stevens, and you will see that I clearly lay out the facts which show, Mr. Stevens, that you were doing everything that you could possibly do to get that information made public. We know that from Mr. David Korn of Mother Jones. He stated that clearly. He also stated in his interview and his piece where he talked about the fact that you wanted that information spread, that you wanted him to get with The Guardian, that you wanted him to give it to the New York Times. We also know, Mr. Steele, that you got very upset that you didn't see the stuff that you were putting in that dossier showing up in the media, and so you got really, really upset, and you started trying to dish it out there yourself. That's exactly what happened, Mr. Steele. So to sit here and try to say that in your deposition that it was your intent and your understanding that none of this information was ever to be made public is bullshit, Mr. Steele. And I'm pretty sure that the Belarusian man who's suing you is going to prove that in civil court. I'm pretty sure you're going to lose that case, Mr. Steele. You better get ready to dig deep into your pockets, because this Belarusian man is going to clean them out. He's going to hold you upside down and shake you till you are lacking seriously in coin. You are a liar, Mr. Steele. You were doing everything that you could do to get that information in the dossier out there public. Now, you may have not wanted the dossier to be made public under your name or under legitimate circumstances, but you did want the information getting out there, and you were doing everything you could, Mr. Steele, to promote that. You fucking spook. These people, I just want to strangle them. Honest to God. And I'll finish the video today by just letting you know that this morning I was so ticked off last night I could hardly sleep. So I woke up early this morning and I contacted my congressman. Now, my congressman's brand spanking new, because my previous congressman was John Boehner, the ultimate Satan himself. And of course, he's retired, and now he is a tobacco and pharmaceutical lobbyist, and living like a king down in Florida, in his second home down in Florida, working on his tan, because Mr. Boehner likes to keep a good tan. He also likes to stay drunk most of the time, and he likes to chain smoke about 4 packs a day, while his children are back up here in Ohio smoking dope, doing trip, and hanging out at rave parties. And I know this firsthand, believe me. So, let me just mention this. So my new congressman, I got this morning and I contacted his office, and he's not in, of course. They're never in. They're never in. You'll never actually get to talk to your congressman when you call them on the phone, because they're never in, or at least ways they're not in their office. They might be in one of their interns, but they won't be in. They might be in a pizza shop having some pizza, maybe doing some cooking, but they will not be in their office to take your call. I can assure you of that. But that's never stopped me before. So I spoke for a few minutes to one of his aides on the phone and let her know that I'm very disappointed that I haven't heard him out there defending the president. I told her I want him to be the loudest defender of the president that we have. I asked her why he is not calling out Hillary Clinton on her crimes, why he is not pushing and pushing and pushing for investigations into the criminal ongoings of many on the Democratic side. I asked her why he is allowing the Republicans to sit back and be played by the Democrats, despite the fact that they control all the committees. And of course, her only response was to say very, very little, and to just tell me, well, some of these committees that are handling these are committees that he's not on. He's not on this. He's on this committee. He's on this committee. He's not on that committee, so he really doesn't have much to do with that. But I let her know that I haven't heard much from him. Oh, I do get his nice color brochures in the mail every 2 to 3 months, wanting money from me. But he doesn't really need my money because he's bankrolled by the deep state, which is why I told her that I will definitely be voting against him, not just because he's a spineless wimp and he has not stood up for the president. He has not stood up for any of the values that I have as a fairly conservative, libertarian type of individual. He's sitting back in the shadows trying to play it safe. He won't even do a town hall because the last time he did, he made a fool of himself and got ran out of the joint. So anyway, my new congressman, hopefully we can make sure he only serves 1 2-year term and we can throw his ass out in November. But that's, of course, what a challenge that is, because I live in a district where there's a lot of, retired people who are very well off, and they blindly show up at the polls, and they look for the guy with the R after his name that's been endorsed by the party, and they vote for him. Then they go home and send the Republican Party some money. Then they send him some money. Then they go to a couple fundraisers, and then they go hang out with their buddies and talk about how bad the fucking Democrats are. So this is the reality that we exist in, but it doesn't stop me from speaking my mind and contacting my congressman's office. Now, when Boehner was in office, for all those many years, they eventually would, I think they blocked my number because I eventually just couldn't get through. I sent them so many emails and called them so many times that eventually they got to know me, and I think that they must have had caller ID, because they even stopped greeting me like they would normally greet someone. They literally would pick up the phone and it would be like, "What? You again? Sir, please stop calling here. We've addressed this with the congressman. Did you get our email?" Yeah, I literally, they knew me by name. So I'm going to make sure that this congressman, my new congressman, this is really the first time I've had a chance to call him. But I assure you that over the next couple of weeks and months leading up to the midterm elections, he's going to hear from me on a very regular basis. I want to hear him screaming from the mountaintops about these things that are bothering me. I want him to be me. I can't be him. I'd be more than happy to change places with him for a few months. I wouldn't want to live in the damn swamp in D.C. I would have to fly there for business and come back home and get the hell away from there. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be around that place. I don't want to be around any of them people. I don't like any of them people. I wouldn't go there to make any friends. In fact, I'd go there to make enemies. I'd be the most hated man on Capitol Hill. They'd probably snuff me out in a few weeks. They'd bury me somewhere in the basement and not put me on any committees, not allow me to speak on the floor, not allow me to propose any legislation, not allow me to do a damn thing. But that's okay, because I'd scream bloody murder every single day. And I would certainly speak to my constituents back home and let them know exactly what's going on. I would tell them the truth, something that is literally unheard of in the swamp. There is no truth in the swamp. There's no morality in the swamp. There's no authenticity in the swamp. There's no truth or justice in the swamp. It's just one big circus. It's kabuki theater. It's a mind show. It's a mind game. It's beyond imagination. And I just keep waiting for the American voters to wake up. Now, clearly, because they elected Trump in the last election cycle, tells me that there is some waking up going on. But to be quite honest, when you look at the situation, you can only ascertain that by the fact that we control both houses of Congress, that what's currently going on should not be going on. We should be laughing at the Democrats. From the very beginning, when they started talking Trump collusion, we should have started laughing at them. We should have made them a laughing stock. We should have said, hey, show us one shred of evidence and we'll have some hearings. In the meantime, let's find out about what's been going on with that unmasking. Let's find out what's been going on at the Clinton Foundation. Do you think that Mr. Mueller will be looking into the Clinton Foundation? Do you think it troubles Mr. Gowdy that Bill Clinton received $500,000 from some Russian bankers, and then a few weeks later, Hillary Clinton, along with several other government agencies, signed off on 20% of America's uranium to Russian company? And does you think Mr. Mueller will look into the fact that shortly after that happened, going via Mr. Gustra, that was a very large campaign donation made to the Clinton Foundation? Do you think Mr. Mueller will be interested in looking into that? Do you think Mr. Gowdy will be looking into that? I'm thinking not. What do you think? So, this is basically what's continuing to go on. We'll follow it day by day, and see how the shoes drop. But again, I'm going to stay on this story until hell freezes over. I'm not backing off. Hopefully, in the end, justice will prevail. But when we are talking about the swamp, we're talking about the people who run the show there. People like Mr. Gowdy, Mr. Mueller, Mr. McConnell, Pelosi, Mr. Schumer, and all these people, McCain. By the way, Mr. Mueller, are you going to be looking into Mr. McCain? And let me ask you this, Trey Gowdy, what's that you said to Mark McCollum again? Let me go back. Oh yeah, you said that you were concerned about. Mr. Gowdy, you're concerned about Trump Jr. meeting with someone from a foreign government. Well, Mr. Gowdy, first of all, the lawyer, female lawyer, does not represent the foreign government. She has nothing to do with the government, doesn't work for the government doesn't know her, and she doesn't know them. Putin's spokesperson was asked about it. He says, I don't know who you're talking about. We have lots of lawyers here, men lawyers, women lawyers. We don't know about, we have lots of people representing private Russian citizens' interest. We have a lot of things going on. We don't, we don't know what you're talking about. So does it bother you, Mr. Gowdy? Are you concerned, Mr. Gowdy, about Mr. McCain sending his right-hand man to go meet with the ex-intelligence officer of a foreign government for the purpose of getting information that could be used to take down and destroy the president as well as the damn party? Does that trouble you and concern you, Mr. Gowdy? I'm very interested to know, Mr. Gowdy, if that troubles and concerns you. Why don't you let us know, Mr. Gowdy? We'll be looking forward to watching your performance as it comes up. Oh, that's right, we're not going to see your performance because everything's going to be in a closed session behind closed doors. and not under oath. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Thank you for tuning in. You're an asshole, Mr. Gowdy. Now, for those of you for tuning into my video, I very much appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for the comments, for the thumbs up. I'll be back tomorrow with another edition of Towergate. This has been day 130, July the 12th, 2017. Thank you for tuning in. Good night.